Legislative Director Blair Horner. Thanks for your time, Blair.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
Okay, let's have some fun.
All right.
All right. So we jest, and we will be jesting. However, this is an entirely serious matter,
right,
because what we're going to show people here is what it looks like in the districts that they live in when a process that is inherently political gets putting pen to paper.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rigged system. It's designed to benefit the political parties and the politically powerful at the expense of everyone else. We think it's a very serious system that needs serious reform. But last time around, we were trying to explain it to people. And, you know, when you talk about redistricting, people sort of, you know, they understand it, but it's not the most exciting topic. And so we wanted to really look at the maps. And so we created an award that we called the Salvador Dali Pablo Picasso Award for the most artistically drawn districts. And we actually used this at, I was speaking actually at a Parent Teachers Association conference, PTA conference. So you have hundreds of people there. And we actually showed a lot of the maps. And not only did we try to figure out who was the most artistically drawn district, which was the most artistically drawn district, but we tried to name them as well. In that way, I think people get more engaged and have a more light look at the redistricting issue, and at the same time, the point gets made.
Okay, well, so let's pop one of these up on the screen here so people can see what it looks like. This is, what do you call this one?
Well, this was the third place winner in the Salvador Dali Pablo Picasso Award. It's in northeastern Nassau County. It was known as the Claw, actually, is what people thought.
The evil claw.
And really, when you're looking at it, the funny part of it is, of course, is the name.
Right.
The serious part is this is a district that cobbles together democratic strongholds on Long Island along the North Shore, and that's the top of the claw, with more minority areas on Long Island. Anybody knows Long Island's political demography. The center of the island is more likely than not to have lower income, more minority communities.
Right.
The North Shore tends to be more democratic. And the big white area where the claw is clutching is very heavily Republican, overwhelmingly so.
So, and the interesting thing about this is that actually Long Island used to be a really entrenched GOP stronghold, and then the Democrats started to make some inroads there with Tom Suozzi, who was the Nassau County executive. He was the first Democrat in decades, and then he just got ousted. So now we're seeing, by a guy named Ed Mangano, so we're seeing this sort of turn back, which does not bode well for the Senate Democrats as they try to protect the two lone Democrats on Long Island who are members of their conference. It would be Craig Johnson and Brian Foley. He's the one that they're targeting, the Republicans are targeting particularly.
Well, and that's an area of the state of Long Island in Suffolk County. Foley's district used to be held for a long time by former Senator Cesar Trunzo. That's an area of the state where there is a much higher Republican enrollment than you may have in other parts, even in Craig Johnson's district, which was very competitive even when it was drawn in 2002.
So let's see number 2.
All right. This happens to be let me see if it's up. There
we go.
This happens to be my favorite because it's an upstate Senate district. It was number 2. The name of it, people named, was Abraham Lincoln riding a vacuum cleaner. And it's particularly favorite because how often do you get to use the words Abraham Lincoln and vacuum cleaner in the same sentence?
Except you just did.
That's right. And so this is the only time. And so you can see Honest Abe's stovepipe cap goes deep into the heart of the Adirondacks. His feet, which are to the right of the picture, are down in the Hudson Valley, and the bag, which is off the vacuum cleaner on the back, is out in the area of Ithaca.
Whose district is this?
This is Senator Seward's district. It's a very big district geographically. One thing you'll notice, we're going to talk about this in a second, is the upstate Senate Republican districts have a lot fewer people in them than the downstate Senate Democratic districts, and we'll come back
and
to
there
that.
are rules regarding, I mean, this is not, for example, there was just this bill that passed in the Senate and the Assembly. It was actually part of the revenue bill, sort of strange thing to stick into the revenue bill.
I guess it was a prison issue.
Yes, the prison issue, which regarded where you were going to be counting prisoners in their home districts, which is now the place they came from, that their home address is, as opposed to the place that they are incarcerated, which is how they've been doing it up to this point. But, you know, a viewer actually wrote into me and asked me this really interesting question. We have 62 senators and 62 counties. Why do we not just have one senator per county the way that you have it at the national level?
Well, in fact, the state constitution, which says that we have to have at least 50 state senators, actually the Senate districts were designed in the state constitution based on geography. It was in the 1960s when the U.S. Supreme Court weighed in and said that you really have to have representative districts that were based on the concept of one person, one vote, that New York moves from a geographically based state senate to a population-based one. What you now have is some counties, for example, Herkimer County, have very few people in them when the county of Brooklyn has a lot. And so what you end up with is, even though you have 62 senators, 62 districts, you have to really reflect the population, and some of those counties have millions of people in them.
So it wouldn't be legal, is that correct?
Right, that's right. Your Supreme Court has argued you can't do that, and that's why New York changed in the 60s.
I see. Okay, so there we have the answer, which I could not answer, and I'm so glad you're here.
Well, and Abraham is too. Honest Abe actually would want to make sure that we were telling the truth in that district.
And so we are. So let's see the winner of the Salvador Dali Pablo Picasso contest. There it is, and it's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Under New York law, districts are supposed to be compact and contiguous, and certainly I think you'd have a hard time, unless it was some sort of psychological exam, figuring out that was compact.
It sort of looked like one of those ink blot tests.
Yeah, in fact, we were tied. The contestants couldn't figure out what was the best name for this district. It boiled down to either bug on a windshield, or oops, I spilled the coffee on the map.
You went with the latter, didn't you?
Well, it was a tie. It was a tie. I believe in democracy.
I mean, this is crazy. You've got this little thing on the end here. These people who happen to live in that, whatever, the drips of the coffee, I guess, all the way over there, hanging off the end, they're not even contiguous with the rest of the district.
Well, there are some districts literally that don't appear to be contiguous at all. That you need, for example, Assemblyman Tim Gordon's district south of Albany. You need a snorkel actually to make it from one side of the district to the other.
I forgot about that.
But in this particular case, this district was rigged to benefit former State Senator Guy Villela, a Republican who is in a district that's predominantly Democratic. What they were doing there was cobbling together Republican areas of southern Westchester County with Democratic areas, but conservative ethnic Democratic areas of the Bronx, cobbling that together so that he could win. Part of the district is Rikers Island, which is in fact counted in his district, even though the prisoners can vote.
Right? They cannot vote.
And ironically, Senator Guy Villela was convicted of political corruption and went to prison in, you guessed it, Rikers Island.
Yes.
So they kept him in the district, which I thought was a very nice touch.
He didn't spend very much time there, though, for the record. But
enough, he thought.
This district actually is now represented by Jeff Klein, a Democrat, a fairly conservative to moderate